Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. Today we're talking about the week of September 5th, 2022. We've made it to meteorological fall. Happy autumn, everyone. And we're going to talk about, because we don't do anything new, right? Because we only have a few things that we know how to talk about, we're going to tie together some ideas of what we've been talking about the last few weeks, where we've looked at the planets and we've looked at Sagittarius a couple of times and talked about some objects there. And now the moon is going to pass by all of these objects. In the week ahead, you can watch the moon passing by through the region of the sky that we've been talking about the last few weeks. So let's do that. Let's take advantage of the moon being there to think about the things we've been looking at. The moon's going to be almost full by the end of the week, and so it will be full by the end of the week, so that it's hard to look at some other things. We've talked about this before. When there's so much moonlight, it washes out a lot of the other objects we want to look at. So we look at the moon. We saw. So now, the moon's going to start in Sagittarius. We're talking about Monday night into Tuesday morning. So overnight Monday into Tuesday, the 5th to the 6th. And this is where we'll start our week. The moon's going to be about 75% full, and it's waxing. It's getting fuller from this point. If it's waxing, that means it's moving easterly through the stars. So you'll get a chance to watch this progression as the week moves on. But we're going to start the week with something special. We've identified, go back every time. I know this is a fun thing that you do, is you go back and you rewatch all of these little films that I'm making, so that you can see how I draw the pattern of Sagittarius differently. I draw it different and make a different pattern every single time that I put it on the board. That's how poor my reproduction skills are, my drawing skills are. And this seems to have way too big a spout on the teapot, but oh well. In any event, you go back and look at that and see. Better yet, go to our webpage. I've done a plug for our website last week, I think. And we'll do it again this week to say I have pictures of the Astros. I have pictures of Sagittarius right out there. And you can go look at a couple of the pictures of Sagittarius and get to a sense of what this pattern really is supposed to look like. But you've got the body of the teapot, the spout, the lid, and the handle back here. On the evening of the 5th into the morning of the 6th. Now this is, you've got to translate to your own time, because I don't know where you are. And I hope you're someplace interesting, and I hope you're having fun there. But here in the middle of the United States, so I'm in the central time zone of the United States is what we're talking about. So this is what we're looking at. For me, as it gets dark, the moon's going to be right here in this handle of Sagittarius. So as darkness falls, the moon's sort of washing out some of these fainter stars of Sagittarius. And you can't see a few of them, but you would probably pick some of them out. This is a great time to have binoculars out and to be observing some of the stars around Sagittarius that might be washed out a little bit by the glow of the moon. As the evening progresses, as it gets darker and later, what's going to happen is, for me, in the central part of the United States, so much of the United States would be able to observe this, the moon's going to pass right over the bottom star in the handle of the Sagittarius, Tau Sagittari, that is. And so that star's going to get blinked out. We call that an occultation. This is a lunar occultation. And so the moon, it's just passing between us and that background star and causing it to disappear. That's going to happen about 10:30 for me on Monday evening. And the moon, being about a half a degree in size and moving slowly across the sky, relatively speaking, it's going to take a while to pass across there, and it's going to have this star blotted out for an hour or so. And so, if you've never seen one of these things, it's really worth taking the time to observe. And you might be able to do it with your naked eye without any optical aid whatsoever. Binoculars might help you to be able to see this star. It's not the brightest of all stars. It's not a faint star by any stretch. But with a bright moon nearby, it might be a little bit hard to see. You can also watch it in a small telescope, but you want a wide field of view so you can get this thing timed right and watch this happen. So for me, just barely after 10:30 or right around 10:30, I'm going to watch this moon clip right over that star, and an hour later it would reappear on the other side. So it's something, if you've not seen such a thing, it's something to observe, to appreciate watching a star blink out due to something passing in front of it like this, the moon in this case. These things happen all the time. It's not a rare occurrence for the moon to occult stars. Now, most of the stars it would occult, most of the stars it would blot out would be significantly fainter than Tau Sagittari. So this is a relatively bright star to be able to see this, but it's still something. It's still something for us to think about the geometry of orbits and to think about space and stars beyond this and sort of use our geometrical imagination to think about what's going on here. So this is something to observe if you haven't seen such a thing. So that's where we start the week on Monday. What it means for me, I know you're always wondering, well, how does this affect him personally? That's what the universe is, the most important aspect of the universe, of course, obviously, is how it would affect me personally. You might recall from a couple weeks ago is the data that we take, that we have all this information on the website about our research project, is from a star cluster that's in Sagittarius right here. It means the moon is too close. And so I got a few nights break from taking data. Unfortunately, it looks like a couple of those nights are going to be clear, so I will actually miss a couple of nights of data while the moon's sliding through Sagittarius here. By a night later, on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, the moon's going to be squarely between the bright asterism of Sagittarius and the bright asterism of Capricornus that we talked about just last week. So go back and look at last week's video of Capricornus here, and it's still in Sagittarius as we get, as it gets to be nighttime, but it's way out here in the open space between these two constellations. Another night later, and the moon is going to slide by from Wednesday night into Thursday morning, the 7th to the 8th. Now the moon's more than 90% full. It's approaching 95% full by the end of the evening for me. The moon's going to pass underneath Saturn. Remember, Saturn was sitting next to these two stars in Capricornus and Nashira. That was, I should have written that on there for you, because obviously you can read my handwriting so well. Nashira and Deneb Al-Gadi was this star that was back here. Tail of the goat, we've talked about many, many times in the last year or so because Saturn's been sitting right here for so long. So Saturn's next to these stars. The moon on Wednesday night will pass underneath there, getting within about 5 or 5.5 degrees of Saturn. That's not going to happen. It's not going to get directly under Saturn. It's not going to reach that close to Saturn for me until the pair's setting on the western horizon, around 3:30 in the morning, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning for me. So if you live west of where I live, you'd have a better chance to see Saturn and the moon forming a closer pair. It's going to be a little bit bigger pair, a little bit wider pair, but still we're talking 6 degrees or something. We're not talking 7 degrees. We're not talking about very, very wide as it moves across there. It's going to seem really wide compared to where it was right on top of Tau Sagittari, but it's going to be pretty close. These are bright, nice bright objects. No telescope, no binoculars, no nothing needed for this. You might, if the moon's here at 90% full, it'll be an interesting test to see how well you can see, say, Nashira right there. You might need binoculars to pull that out of the glow of the moon. I don't know, but you might not too. So check that out. Wait 2 more nights, 3 more nights I can add. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday into Sunday, the 10th to the 11th. And the moon will have moved over to Jupiter. We looked at Jupiter last week sitting in Pisces. And so the moon will slide under Jupiter and get within about 4 degrees. For me, it won't get to that 4 degrees direct, sort of that its closest approach to Jupiter until it's daylight, until we've lost these to the glow of the sunrise coming on Sunday morning. So on the 11th. So if you live west of me, you'd have a better chance of seeing this get closer. But it's still going to be pretty close. It's still going to be 5 or 6 degrees that we see in a very nice pairing. And Jupiter's really big and bright. And so there won't be any trouble at all seeing Jupiter and the moon here together, even though the moon's basically full at that point. So the moon has filled out significantly, and we see that. Now, as we talked about, as we kicked this thing off, we were talking about this is the week of September 5th, 2022. This is autumn, meteorologically speaking, and above here, we have the circlet of Pisces last week where we were looking at Jupiter sitting below the circlet of Pisces. Above there is the great square of Pegasus. And for me, and I've talked about this before, maybe we'll talk about this next week, for me, there is no more stark, no more iconic marker of autumn, of the arrival of fall, than the great square of Pegasus in the evening sky. And so you'll see the great square of Pegasus rising. This is probably rising, maybe not quite as it gets dark. You maybe can't see this quite yet. By this point, it's getting close if you can't see it yet. So you'll wait an hour or 2 after dark, and you got no problem finding it. Well, you know it. You can see it after dark, right? The full moon is visible all night long. So the full moon is going to be right on the eastern horizon as it gets dark. But to really get up into the sky where you can see it, probably wait another hour. That's what we're talking about. It'll be over the horizon as it gets dark it'll be difficult to see down on the horizon, so let it get a little bit higher. That's what we got. We got the moon sliding easterly through the stars and waxing, at least to begin the week. And so this is what it does. This is not a new thing. This is a recurring pattern that we see, but it does some interesting things this time through, as it often does. Is it will blot out Tau Sagittari. It will pass very close to Saturn and Jupiter and allow us to observe these things, these nice pairings. So I hope you have a great week, everybody. I hope you enjoy observing the sky, and I hope you have clear skies. We'll have something new and different for you next week. Thanks.